Hello, my name's Holly Whitelaw. I am going to grasp technology and share my screen with you. There we go. So, hello. Thank you very much for watching this. I gather it's optional, and therefore I know I'm speaking with people who really care and are trying to grasp how, in our sphere of influence, we can help reduce greenhouse gas emissions in Cornwall and the further afield. And you can see from this diagram that Cornwall Council put together that we've got a fair way to go. This data, i.e. this footprint, is from 2016, and we might have lost a toe or two by then, but yeah, that's where we need to go. Currently 4.1 million tonnes-ish, and that's about 7 times as much as it should be. So the guys at the top, Boris has a girlfriend who's a bit of a greenie, so that really helps. But generally, people have grasped the situation finally, thankfully. But they can't do it without us, little guys at the bottom. We can't do it without them, of course. However, those guys at the top have got to turn a mighty economic ship around. Much of that economy is paying taxes towards our education, our schools, the healthcare system, prisons, etc. So what we can do, though, is by no means insignificant. What we can all do is basically lead by example with honesty, integrity, compassion, confidence, and where possible, humor. Making choices every day that help improve our world and reduce our footprint upon it. It's hard, but I believe that slowly and surely we will be increasingly not the minority, but the majority. And I found that the more better choices I make, the happier I am. But I'm no angel, and we can't do everything perfectly. We can just strive to do it better. Worldviews are indeed shifting, thankfully. Things are changing for the better, and millions of people are working to help reduce climate change and diversity loss because they go in hand. You won't necessarily see this, but I do. And therefore, that's why I'm here today to tell you that lots of good things are happening and things are finally shifting. Humanity is both ridiculously stupid, but also amazingly brilliant. We've got the facts now, and now we've got to fit them into our everyday lives somehow and the systems that we live in. Talking systems, currently the power in the UK is becoming increasingly decentralized, with more money and power being distributed down to our councils. This is the centralized sort of London going out to all the counties model that we're partly in, yes, but this is where we're heading, and this is where it is more. So Cornwall Council and then various network leaders are getting the ability to have more control, which is quite exciting, actually. We can all also get more political ourselves. We can contact our local clerk of our local town or parish council if you're worried about anything locally, or if you have ideas that you think could help. If they can't answer, they will put you in touch with the relevant people further up the chain who can help you. Bear in mind, though, local councils all work for free, except for the clerk, and they have to deal with loads of boring stuff like planning permission, but they will help. And the voice from young people is very powerful, because us oldies realize that it's you who will be facing the results of climate change. So do let your voice be heard and don't be afraid. And if you're worried in any way, get a friend to join you and help. Other ways you can help are pretty simple. Basically, we just all need to consume a lot less. less rubbish food and more local healthy food. I know cooking from scratch is difficult and not as convenient, and it's impossible currently to buy 100% of our food from local regenerative sources. But each time we do make better choices, rather than this side going to this side, um, then we're saving carbon from the transport, from the processing, from the packaging. And it all helps not only the carbon footprint, but also our health and the health of our family. Food should be good for us, but a lot of what we eat isn't, sadly, and we're getting ill as a result. Um, it's hard, I know, especially because at your age, you want to nip to McDonald's, you want to go to the shop and get a fizzy drink. You want to, there isn't the option there to get a nice yummy soup from across the road from the college. And there's people working on that, including myself, to change things, but it's difficult. But if you don't go to McDonald's, then they will lose income and then they won't be viable. But basically, it's about leading the way as much as possible. And if you've got time, it would be brilliant if you could make the meal at home once a week. If you've got working parents, they don't have the time to shop and cook from scratch quite often. So it could be a way of you learning some skills, feeding your family healthily, and helping out at home. And us mums would be really grateful. Um, in the past, we have paid a lot more for our food than we do now. Currently, Britain is the third, the food in Britain is the third cheapest than anywhere else in the world. America's number two, and I think somewhere in Southeast Asia is number one. I can't remember. So we're paying less for our food, but we're paying a lot more now for our health care system. In the past, we used to pay a lot less for our health, and a lot more for our food, and it's just sort of swung crazily. By buying local seasonal produce and cooking it well, we're supporting too local jobs as well as your family health and the environment. So that's quite a biggie. Another thing you can do is reduce the amount of water you use. I know that one seems strange, but our water needs processing, and that processing uses fuel, carbon. Also, with increasing numbers of people, each washing more than they need to quite often, lack of water is a growing problem, even here in the UK. Don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting you go native and stinky. My middle son needs to wash nearly every day because he's a right stinker, but he goes in there for less than 5 minutes. What I do is try and use a flannel, which can be, really refreshing and uses hardly any water. And just remember, less is best. Less water, less rubbish food, less new stuff generally. I know when you're down, especially, it makes you feel better to buy something, and to go out shopping can cheer the soul. It's sociable too, but it's a short-lived happiness, especially if you know that every time you put on that t-shirt, that it's been detrimental both to the planet and potentially to those who produce it as well. Cotton, unless it's organic, is the most polluting crop grown on the planet. It's usually grown, you see, with loads of chemicals that need loads of carbon for its processing. And the chemicals, are really costly. So the people who are sort of pushed into buying them, often in India, get into debt. And then, they're in financial difficulty, and there's a massive problem with suicides as a result. So the pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, they go into the water system, they poison, they reduce soil fertility. And yeah, generally it's pretty bad. And they use lots of precious water. Alternative synthetic fibers are polluting our waterways because the microfibers, like plastics, are lost when you wash them. They go into the waterways and then they get eaten and kill wildlife. And their production uses lots of chemicals and fuel as well. If you buy secondhand, you reduce all of that. And now you can buy secondhand online. I'm told by my children's friends that it's you can go on Depop, Vinted, and even Instagram, but I don't really get that. I'm middle aged, so I use Facebook, and they've got Marketplace, which is great. I've bought mobile phones on there. I bought a car on there, but also you can get clothes, and of course there's eBay. Rummaging too in a charity shop can be great. I love it. I have to say though, it is a lot easier for girls and boys there. But generally, if you think about it, the stuff that you can buy secondhand has lasted, and it's better quality. It lasts longer. So much of the stuff you buy these days, you wash it and it doesn't wash well, and it doesn't last, it doesn't hold, and you can end up looking like everyone else. It's boring. So I say rummaging is the way. And also another thing you can do is set up a jumble sale. They're great fun. Advertise locally, get loads of people putting in stuff, and get your friends involved to help behind the stalls. Make some cakes, get some tea made. Hiring WI halls and village halls, it's really cheap, and you can make money for an eco project, or for something, a charity or something. I've put on a few, and they've been so successful. People love them, obviously, when we're allowed to gather. um so other things you can do, well, obviously switching off the lights, switching off your gadgets when they're not needed. Even on standby, these things use energy. Put on a jumper and a hat. Hats are amazing. They make so much difference if you're chilly. And don't wash your clothes unless they really need it. I know it's easy to bundle them up from the floor, when and put them in the washing machine, in the clothes basket, but do the sniff test, okay? And remember, less is best. This slide is quite interesting. So it's basically Overshoot Day. It's pretty punchy. I hope you can see it. If you haven't seen it before, basically it explains the date when humanity's demand for resources like fish or wood from forests, for instance, and indeed services in a given year exceed what the earth can regenerate in that year. You can see here that people, often the wealthy countries in the Middle East, that's Qatar, and there's also Luxembourg, United Arab Emirates, they are getting through their resources really early on in the year. I can't actually see, but February, mid-February, early February. So the rest of the year in Qatar, they're basically borrowing from the future. The UK is somewhere around here, May, and yeah, for the rest of our year, we are taking resources that the earth cannot replace. What we need to do is learn from the guys up in Indonesia. Is it Ecuador? I can read Nicaragua. I love saying that, because they are doing far better. Basically, they're using less. So if ever you want to explain how and why we need to use less, look up Overshoot Day. It's really punchy, isn't it? The powers that be know this, and Cornwall Council are actually leading the way by embracing a circular economy. You might have studied this, I don't know, but basically, if I go through this, we've got to get a cleaner production by using yet less resources. We've got to extend the lifespan of what we produce, like a washing machine used to be made just to sort of break after the warranty. So laws are have come in to say, no, that's no good. It's got to last much longer. In my youth, in the 70s, you bought a washing machine and it lasted 20, 30 years. Now they last sort of 5, 10, and you can't get the parts, and everything's, contained in plastic. So you can't actually replace things. So the idea is that we need to change all that. And we know that now. And so things are shifting. but we don't have enough people that are knowledgeable about how to fix things. So that's something that is going to be part of what you guys need to do. Anyhow, back to this circular economy. We've got to also, when something does finally need replacing, all the bits from that dead washing machine need to be recyclable or reusable. And that's a whole economy that's going to grow. And the bits that are reusable, recyclable, or not usable, they can't be toxic. We've got to stop poisoning our world. So that's that one. Another thing that Cornwall Council has embraced, which is so cool, is this donut economic model. Excuse me. So basically, every decision that the council make, say they've got to build a housing estate, they have to bear in mind all of these things: food, health, education, income, housing networks, energy, blah, blah, blah. They also have to bear in mind the chemical pollution, nitrogen, phosphorus leaching, freshwater withdrawals, land conversion, etc. So they've got to counteract the benefits with the potential problems and make sure that they try and reduce the problems and add more benefits so that they are inside the the donut rather than going outside the donut. Overshoot. We've got some. What will happen? We'll lose diversity because we're covering up the land. We might pollute because of all the machinery required to build this estate. A lot of energy is being used, etc., etc. But we're going to have a nice educational element because we're going to be teaching people how to build houses in an eco way with lots of insulation and ground source heat pumps. We're going to ensure that estate has a really good school with a nearby sort of baby center to make sure they're all healthy, etc. So this is a new, and Cornwall Council is the first council to do this, which is great. But they will need guidance when they go too much outside, and that's up to the people of Cornwall to remind them. So something to bear in mind. Where have I got? Yeah, so you can learn about how to keep in touch with the council, how to build in an eco fashion. You can learn how to farm in a regenerative way. Regenerative agriculture is the way to fix our planet, basically. We need the whole world doing it, but regenerative agriculture traps carbon in the soil. It's fantastic, as well as building biodiversity, producing healthier food. And so do look into that if you're in any way interested. You can work out how to feed people in vegetarian or with regeneratively produced meat at scale for the NHS. You can work in economics for good. For there are, economics doesn't have to be there for bad things. It's there for good things too. You can work with organizations to help them raise funds for, say, repair cafes or libraries of things where you borrow, rather than just a book, you borrow, I don't know, a hedge trimmer that you hardly ever use, or you borrow a video recorder that you hardly ever use and give it back. And so we're not buying so much. You could learn about how to turn some of our waste into soil. The Eden Project have a big new department there, as does Newquay College, I believe. But yeah, there's lots of places getting a grip of this regenerative circular economy. How we can best utilize waste is a massive income area. We're going to have to change the way we do things. You can become an engineer, a soil biologist, a geologist. You can help measure and design better ways of living, basically. You can become a specialist in herbal remedies, in companion planting, in trees, suitable trees for windbreaks for farmers. There's so much scope here. You could set up a local supersonic waste recycling centre. You could learn how to increase diversity and feed bees and produce honey and beautiful wax candles. I just think, actually, though the world is kind of depressing, there's also this whole new sort of rainbow ahead of brilliant new jobs. You can learn to make clothes out of hemp. Hemp's a brilliant carbon absorber because it grows so quickly, trapping that carbon in the fibers, and you can then process that into clothing that lasts for ages, like 30 times as long or something. It's like, oh, I need jeans made out of that. Workwear should be made out of that. So we're not having to redo everything, remake everything. How not to waste anything, how to reuse, recycle, and repair everything needs people like you thinking about things differently. You can travel and learn from others. Go by train there, obviously. You can become experts. Many of us adults don't have time to study all of this. And we certainly don't know all the answers, but this book's really great. If you don't have it in your college library, get it, or just get someone to buy it for you for a birthday present. Drawdown, the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming. It's got all the answers in there. Getting them to work in every bit of society is the political political debate. But you guys can become the leaders. You can become the experts, and you can force change, and you can set examples. I decided personally to learn about regenerative agriculture. And now, after a year and a half of studying it, and I wrote a website, regenerativefoodandfarming.co.uk, I'm now advising farmers, the council, consulting with educational groups. And, I'm just a mum, a mother of 3. I didn't go to university, but I'm passionate, and that's all you need to be, just steady, passionate. I set up Cornwall Climate Action Network. You're welcome to join it. It's currently a sort of Facebook group, and we're working out what sort of organisation to be. And there's now 55 climate groups throughout Cornwall and growing, that's linked in with Cornwall Council, and we're looking for funding to fund posts within the community so that we can sort of build better bridges, access funding, link people together better, share resources and information and educational stuff coming through from Exeter especially. So yeah, do join that Facebook page if you're at all interested. It's called Cornwall Climate Action Network. There's so much to do, and there's also so much not to do, and you guys are going to really help, hopefully, by leading by example. Perhaps you'll travel and help those other countries that are really struggling and share what we have learnt over there, over wherever. Perhaps you'll create apps that will help. Perhaps you'll find a way of maximizing energy. Just keep moving forward, and also let nature take the lead. Mother knows best, but we can utilize technology too. Nature has most of the solutions, and we have the ability to turn this consuming ship around. Remember, best things in life are generally free. Oh, and also, if someone ever tells you that there's no point trying to reduce our carbon footprint unless China and India do the same, make them understand kindly and with no accusation in their voice that we outsource our carbon footprint onto them, as many of our goods and services are done over there. We buy the phone, the fridge, the clothes that they make, and they're lumbered with the footprint. Change is happening globally, and actually change is often happening even faster for the better in some of the developing countries. And progress is happening really quickly here too. Just this week, the Prime Minister announced that carbon emissions will be cut by 78%. by 2035. That's 15 years earlier than previously planned, which will be a world leading position, which is great. We will need everyone's help to do this, though. And last weekend, the US and China had a meeting and acknowledged that money needs to be channeled into low carbon projects, not high carbon. Thank the Lord we've lost Trump. And anyhow, so basically, I just wanted to say, take heart, guys. Things are changing. If ever you want to contact me, you're most welcome. If you want advice or steering or contacts or anything, I'm at Cornwall can at gmail.com, and my name's Holly Whitelaw, and thanks so much for persevering with my presentation. All the best. Bye.